Hi Jess. So we're going to be looking today at the new AI layer inside Umbraco. It's called Umbraco.ai. There's a load of features in there. We're going to look at setting up Umbraco Copilot, show you what it can do, and give you a quick preview of Umbraco Prompts and Umbraco Automate.
Umbraco AI is the foundation that everything sits on. You can install it and you get a new section. You get connections, profiles, context, guardrails, and settings that you configure. On its own, it doesn't really do much. You're going to want to install some packages with it. You can install Umbraco Copilot, which is a chat assistant, Umbraco Automate, which is for automations that run based on triggers, Umbraco Prompts, which is one-click editor assistance for CMS fields, and agents as well. That's for building your own configurable AI helpers. They all work on top of Umbraco AI. It will take you through some basic installation.
So by default, you probably wouldn't want to give editors access to the AI and automation, depending on your setup and the skills of your editors. What we like to do is create an AI managers thing, which just grants access to the AI section, and you can assign users onto that basically. The first thing we need to do is set up a connection or connections. And connections are to different providers. We've got a number installed here. If you search in package library, you can see that there's various other ones available, DeepSeek, Mistral. You might want to use different providers for different things. I've configured one here for Anthropic, which is what we're going to use. With the Anthropic ones, you just need to put in your API key. Foundry, there's a bunch of fields for you to fill in. But if you use those systems, you'll be familiar with what it's asking for. Once we've got our connection, we can move on to profiles. We're going to create a general profile. It's a chat profile. We're going to call it general. And here you can see why we set the connection up first. So we're going to select my connection, and then you get which models are available for you to use. So we'll pick a sonnet. Temperature from our testing. We want to reduce this down to keep the model on track and avoid hallucinations. You can put system prompt in here, but I think when we look at the other sections in the configuration, you'll see that we do that stuff there. And again, we'll come to context in a second as well. So if I just save that, within a context, you can add things like brand voice and other instructions. So you've got two resource types, brand voice or text. These are reusable content that we can inject in. So we'll be able to give agents and profiles access to different contexts depending on what we need them to do and what instructions they need. So let's start with a basic text one. We're just going to call that content rules. We've got an option here. You can always have this included. You can have it on demand, so up to the agent or the LLM to get. This is the sort of stuff that we want always included in every request, just to keep things under control. And then we've got a text field here. So I'm going to put in some basic instructions. We always want British English, spelling and grammar. We don't want emojis, which LLMs tend to throw in. And then we've got some basic rules for different fields that we tend to use on our content nodes and also on images. We always want to use WebP format. We want descriptive file names. We need to keep the file size under a certain thing. And you'll see how we can use this information later. So we'll add that, and you'll notice we can keep adding things within here to give some further information. Here we're avoiding superlatives, absolute claims, filler phrases, jargon, that kind of thing. So because we've said we always want this stuff injected, it's going to go into the context for any agent or other tool that's using it.
I'm going to come over to guardrails. We will cover these more in later content, but essentially this is really good for organizations that may have something they can't say, for legal reasons. But LLMs can sometimes get things wrong and hallucinate. So a guardrail checks what goes into the AI and what comes out of it, and it can essentially block or warn you on that content.
So when we look to add a rule, there's three different types of evaluators you can do. You've got contains, you search for a pattern basically. You can do case sensitive or insensitive. With all of these, you've got different actions available, so block, warn, or redact. And the key thing here is, I think, is the phase. So you've got pre-generate, which should act on input from your editor. So when communicating with the LLM or via an agent, or you've got post-generate, which is working against what's coming back from the agent before it goes back to the editor. Similar to the contains one, we've got a regex match. So again, if you're comfortable with using regex stuff, you might want to have a bunch of keywords or phrases you can search for. The one that's slightly different is the LLM safety judge. So again, pre or post generate. We've got slightly more limited options here, block or warn. You can have specialist profiles for this, but there is a built-in one and a standard prompt. So factual accuracy, harmful content, misinformation, brand compliance, flag anything that would cause harm, a safety threshold basically. Okay, so moving on, we've got another section here, which is for settings. They're really for your default profiles for things. The only thing we're going to be concerned with today is a chat profile. We've already created our general profile, so we're just going to set that. And this will be used in Copilot as a fallback if we don't specify something else. Save that. The next thing, now we've got our basic connections and profiles and stuff set up, we can actually create an agent. We would call our agent Bob, and we need to assign a profile to that. So we're going to say the general profile. Now the profile includes the general context. We do have the option here to add additional ones. That one's already included, we don't need to, but you might find that for certain agents you want to give them additional context. We're going to use Bob in our Copilot demonstration in a moment. We need some basic instructions for the agent. We've got some here. One of the things we want to do with this one is we want Bob to be able to make suggestions, but not actually implement any changes. So we're telling it this here. We're also going to set that in a moment. If you're integrating with other systems, you might want to switch to using structured output, so you can specify your JSON schema here. But for using Copilot, we just want text. To make it available in Copilot, we need to pick a surface, and you can see there's various things. We're going to say Copilot, and the other thing we're going to do, we're not going to select all. We don't want it to have access to automations. We need it to be able to read content. We don't want it to be able to save or publish anything. We'll give it some navigation access and some search access, and we'll also give it media read access so that it can fetch media items. So that is Bob set up. What we're quickly going to do is create another agent called Dave with almost exactly the same stuff. So we've got the same profile and we've got slightly different instructions. You can make suggestions, but you also have permission to make changes if the editor asks you to. And so we're going to make this available in Copilot. We need to actually give Dave the ability to make those changes. So navigation, search, media. One additional tool in here, which is the confirm action. This will allow Dave to prompt the editor to confirm before making any changes. Save that. So we've now got two agents in our system, both exposed in Copilot.
So I've logged in as an editor and Thom's given me content access. I should have access to Copilot. I'm going to click on one of the articles and ask it to suggest some changes for me using the available agents that we just created, Bob and Dave. So clicking onto Copilot here, I'm going to ask Bob, can you suggest some changes to this page? They're coming back with some critical tone problems, missing data, description issues, etc. Okay, now I'm going to chat with Dave, who's got a lot more control over everything. I'm going to ask if Dave can make some changes to this page, and he should already have all the context that we've added in earlier and have read and write access. Make changes to anything you see in the correct page. He's found loads of issues. One of those was the superlatives and absolute claims, like always and guaranteed, really important for our financial services client. Now he is making the changes to the title, subtitle, meta description, and the main content. On the left-hand side here, he's gone ahead and changed everything, so I can now save these changes.
That's good. In a lot of instances, you may find that you want to take the advice from your agent, right, rather than just giving them free rein to go and do this kind of stuff. I think what we can see with the agents here is, based on the things that it's found, it's pulling in from the profile and the context and the brand voice, and all of that information's going in, and it's basing it on that rather than just giving you a regular, I've looked at this page and here's what I think. It's following what it's been told to do. Great. So now you've had that interaction with the agents, Jess. If I look in the logs here, we'll look at the last one, which was your interaction with Dave. We've got various information here. We can see the model, we can see the token usage, we can see the prompt that was received, we can see all of the values that it retrieved for the content node, we can see it gets information on where it is within the CMS. we've got our content rules, we've got our page component instructions, we've got our brand voice instructions, and then we can see what the agent actually did. So these are the issues that were found and where it's calling different tools to actually make the changes and what it fed back. Here's the interaction with Bob, which will be very similar. And you might want to over time do some more analysis with these logs. They could give you good guidelines on improving things and where the money's going and that kind of thing. Also in the monitoring section, we've got some analytics, a basic dashboard, but we can see here tokens and requests basically. So we've had a look at Copilot, just a quick look at prompts. Prompts are handy. They allow you to add quick little tasks that can aid editors in the back office. So I'm going to create one here, which is going to be used for generating image alt text in the media section. We're going to use our general profile. We're going to include the entity context, so it has all the information about the current item that it's dealing with. And we're going to put some basic instructions into write concise descriptive alt text in under 125 characters. We're going to explicitly tell it this is the image file, and then we're going to tell it to write that into the alt text field. What we need to do is we want to govern where this is available. We only want this to be available on image types in the media section on the alt text field. All of this will become clear in a minute when we look in the media section. So if I save this, and if you can go to the media section and open an image.
I'll head to the test image that we've put in here. As you can see, the alt text is blank and we need something relevant to this calculate picture here. If you go through the fields, you should see 3 dots, and that's the field that Thom's given me access to from the AI part. So if I generate alt text, it should give me something relevant. Calculate a pen and stack coins on financial documents. Exactly what it is. So I will select that and save. You can do that with any field, so it's really helpful for things like SEO descriptions and stuff like that. So
you could have, for example, in the content section, you could say on any text fields, check the content against our brand guidelines, and someone could quickly do that without having to go into a chat with Copilot. You can also make it available in the rich text editor, so it becomes available in the toolbar.
Yeah, really useful tool.
Yeah, so there's going to be lots of good stuff with those, I think. So one quick look at Umbraco Automate. You might be familiar with tools like NaN and Make. This is similar, but custom built for Umbraco. So I've set up some very basic stuff. I've set up a workspace with nothing in it, and I've set up a connection, which is a Slack connection, which we're going to use in our quick automation. So we're going to create a new automation. We're going to call it publish alert. We add a trigger. There's a whole bunch of triggers available. We want this one to be when some content is published. We don't really care about which content type it is, but you can choose to limit it to specific ones. So we'll save that. First thing we're going to do, is always useful, is to get that content back. And there's a system of bindings in Automate. So one of the things that's available when content is published is the content key. We're going to select that. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to get this automation to do 2 things. One is a little pop-up notification for the editor immediately after they publish, and we're also going to send a message to Slack with a link to the published page. So the first thing we need to do is notify editor. Again, we're just going to bind it onto the content key. We'll leave the severity at default, but you've got your regular options here. That's our editor notification, and then we're going to do one final one, which is send Slack message. And we're going to put in a channel that we're going to send to. I'll put one here. Now, one of the benefits of having retrieved the content, we should have the full URL available to us. So we're going to bind there, save and publish, and that's all there is to it for setting up. If we switch over onto the content node. Okay, so I'm in the content section now, and I'm on one of our pages. I'm not actually going to make any edits. I want to send a publish event. We should see the regular publish notification. We should also see our custom notification, and then we'll switch over to Slack, and we should have our Slack message. So let's try that. There we go. There's our notification. And after clicking on the link, we're back in with our newly updated page. So there's a lot of stuff with Automate, and I'm going to cover that in a future video.